Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there this morning, getting up and feeling great and having yourselves a fantastic weekend out there so far. I got you an update on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Sunday. I'll be honest with you folks, it's going to be pretty quiet out there. No really crazy weather, I guess I would say. No real severe weather, no big flooding threat. I think the worst we'll see today is just a lot of shower activity across a pretty large portion of the country. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about this nice fall cool air that's moved in for a lot of the central and eastern U.S. So we'll speak on that, and we'll give you an update on the tropics for the second half of the video. But I can tell you guys, the tropics is kind of weird. We have potential Tammy, and I'm sure you've seen some videos out on the tropics in this system that could form, but there's a reason why I haven't really pulled the trigger on an extremely detailed update on the tropics, and that's because the models are doing exactly what I kind of figured they would do, and they're struggling. For a couple of days it was showing this massive scenario where we could have a major hurricane out there and it could get very close to the Lesser Antilles. Well, that's not the case. The models aren't doing that anymore. So they're doing just kind of flip-flopping. They're struggling out there trying to figure this one out, but we will give you the latest information from the National Hurricane Center and from the GFS and the European, and get you guys some updated information for you folks concerned out there in the Lesser Antilles, like the Leeward Islands, even Puerto Rico, and places like that. If you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If you notice a difference in my voice, or if I have to stop, kind of clear my throat. I really irritated my throat last night by going to the game and screaming my butt off at the South Carolina-Florida game, which if you're a college football fan and here in the Southeast, you know that South Carolina lost a 10-point lead within 5 minutes. It was just it was a brutal game to actually physically be at, but it's just football at the end of the day. You wake up, you don't think about it, you try not to. But anyways, if you notice a difference, that's why. I'm pretty hoarse this morning. So if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below so I can do that. I can pray over it. Have not had a chance to read the comments from yesterday morning's video. I will get to that later this afternoon. And last thing I'll mention here is if you folks have not considered joining the channel, it's a great way to support what I do. I try to mention it every 2 weeks or so. Things have really slowed down on the channel. I mean, really, really slowed down. This might be one of the slower months of the year if things continue. It's been very nice, as I've mentioned, but there's just not a whole lot to talk about, and I'm not going to come on here and force the issue when there's really not a whole lot to speak on. I will always do the morning videos regardless of how slow or active the weather is, but it's pretty slow right now. So definitely a great way to support what I do, and thank you for people who do that. I have just over 40 members, so thank y'all for continuing to support me even in the slower times. It means the world. So 3 minutes deep into an intro, my bad, but let's get rolling. So water vapor loop, it don't show a whole lot out there, guys. It really doesn't. A lot of dry air dominating the country. It does show the flow pretty well, as you can tell. Ridge is over the western U.S., and then the trough is digging across the east. So there's energy associated with this upper trough that's swinging now. We call it kind of a northwest flow, and this is already cranking up across areas of the mountains of North Carolina and Virginia, and this is in the form of rain. But as the temperatures continue to cool, we could have a little bit of snow activity in the higher elevations of West Virginia and North Carolina and the Great Smoky Mountains that border North Carolina and Tennessee. I'll be interested to see what happens with this. I think there's a couple storm chasers or just photographers that are going up there to see that snowledge, which is basically seeing the snowfall and a beautiful fall foliage, which is always magical in my opinion. But you could see that if you get really high up there. I'm talking about 4,500, 5,000 feet. You got to get pretty high up there to see this, but I would not be surprised to see or hear about some snow like around the Mount LeConte region and the Great Smoky Mountains one bit. Everybody else in this kind of area that I just drew the circles, just some shower activity today. Ridge is dominating the western U.S., so above average temperatures kind of moving in. And we have a coastal low that is just missing the northeast, and it's moving on off. But we could still see some shower activity from this back end energy behind this trough. So that's what's going on. Big dip in the jet stream across the eastern U.S. This is allowing for that cold front to move through It's bringing in those nice fall-like temperatures again. So if you're an autumn fan, you certainly are loving the weather. And we look at the radar and what's going on right now. You can see the flow. You see this just very spotty shower activity moving in from the north to the south. This is moving through Missouri, waking up to some shower activity. And the orientation of this will probably be more so northwest to southeast across this area of the southern Alps later on. But you got some lake effect energy with the cool air going over the relatively still warm bodies of water of Lake Ontario, Lake Erie. And some shower activity barely clipping. I don't even know if anything's really actually hitting the ground. You guys have to let me know here in southeast Mass, Connecticut. But outside of that, guys, I mean, it's pretty quiet. You got some storm activity just off the southern tip of Florida. Pretty quiet, though. Storm Prediction Center, I will show you this just to show you how quiet it is. This is the Storm Prediction Center outlook for today. The only thing you see is a general risk of storms down here near Miami. Everybody else, I mean, that doesn't mean you're not going to see rain, but as far as storms, very, very low chance of storms today. Same thing with this, the excessive rainfall outlook, guys. I mean, there's nothing, not even a marginal risk. So it really just goes to show you how quiet it is today. Now I will show you these freeze warnings that are up. In fact, I kind of want to show you guys. Well, here it is. I think they're missing. Let's see. I'm gonna have to do this on the fly here. No, I guess it doesn't show it. I thought there was some wind alerts here in the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee. In fact, I think they are. Maybe this isn't updated. I'm not sure, but there probably will be later on the day where we basically have a stout flow out the northwest. It's going to ride over these higher elevations of North Carolina and Tennessee, creating some high winds for sure for you folks. But freeze warnings. And then we have, what are these? Freeze warnings, and I believe, frost advisories across areas of the Central Plains like Kansas and Oklahoma and the Panhandle of Texas. Frost advisories, then we got freeze warnings. So if you haven't experienced your first frost of the year in some of these areas right in here, you most likely will. You might be experiencing it right now, and you might have another chance tonight. So we look at what's going to fall today in the southeast. There's not a ton to mention, but we keep this rolling. And here comes that shower activity. Like I said, I mentioned at the beginning quiet day, but that doesn't mean you're not going to get a drop of rain. We got some back-end energy from this upper trough swinging through. So, some spotty showers this afternoon are possible in northern Mississippi, pretty much all of Tennessee. These will work their way through, and you could get a more organized area of showers that could develop in upstate South Carolina, the western sections of South Carolina, northeast Georgia. And this is kind of new. I wasn't really expecting this today, but we could get some shower activity that gets going, some increased cloud cover later on today in northeast Georgia and areas of South Carolina. And just that northwest flow, you see these spotty showers and these higher elevations. This could fall in the form of snow. If you look very closely, and we're about to zoom into this, it's a little bit of snow falling in these higher elevations of southwest North Carolina. So interesting, it really is. It's still mid-October, but here it is. A closer look at this in the HRRR model. Here comes this energy flowing down and developing. Look, that is the Great Smoky Mountains right here. This basically is higher elevation region that right around where Mount LeConte is, which is over 6,000 feet tall. If you're not familiar with this area, it borders right up against Gatlinburg. It's a beautiful area, beautiful area. In fact, when we go to Gatlinburg from Columbia, we always take the long way, and if it's open, we'll go right over the Great Smoky Mountains instead of going just north of it. But you see these spotty areas of blue. You see it up here in West Virginia too. We'll talk about them, but you keep this rolling, guys, and even these higher elevations in southwest North Carolina, and like up here in Yancey County, I believe that's Yancey County right there, but Roan Mountain. I wouldn't be surprised. We see some snow mixing, and I wouldn't be surprised to get a little bit of accumulating snow like on Mount LeConte. They have a base up there, I believe a hotel up there, and there's always pictures that funnel down from social media. I'll be fascinated to see what we see up here from this region for sure later on today. And then these showers could drift into South Carolina. But as far as the snow, guys, you look on this side of the screen as I keep this rolling from the HRRR model. Here it is. Maybe an inch or two of snow on Mount LeConte, which is your highest elevation in the Great Smoky Mountains, I believe. Southwest North Carolina, a little area is possible too, where we have higher elevations right here. So it's definitely possible, guys. In fact, it's likely, I would say. Up here in the Northeast, this coastal low moving on out, but back in energy flying through. I wouldn't be surprised there's some small hail and some of these little showers or little brief downpours here in the Finger Lakes region, the southern tier region of New York, especially the western half of Pennsylvania, eastern sections of Ohio. Certainly some scattered downpours and just some heavier showers are possible. These will fly down and make it all the way down to West Virginia, where they could mix with some snow. Like I said, in those, you got to get really high up. I'm not talking about like in the lower elevations of West Virginia. You got to get pretty high up in those higher peaks right there in eastern areas of West Virginia. But you continue this. I mean, you get showers moving through areas of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont later on this evening. Some very isolated shower activity in New York State. And these continue just to fly through, and we're waking up tomorrow morning and we're dealing with a lot of shower activity tomorrow morning. I mean, just across the entire Northeast. Okay. A little closer look at West Virginia. Here it is. A little bit of snow showing up in these higher elevations. Okay. That's 1 to 2 inches of snow. So the fall is still looking pretty ripe here in West Virginia. You know, you're not past peak in these regions. So it's a beautiful opportunity to see that. We call it snowage, basically fall foliage, but with snow. And man, to me, I eat that stuff up. I love it. When you just have the white contrast with the fall colors, just beautiful. But you'll have an opportunity of it in these higher elevations. Of course, the trees change the higher up you get, but still, just beautiful opportunity for that to happen later on today. The south central U.S. today, pretty quiet. Not a whole lot to mention. You will have some activity that continues to flow down the Mississippi Valley, as you can tell right here. We kind of talked about northern Mississippi, western Tennessee, but we'll continue just to have some drizzle, some light rain that just flows over the backside of this upper low. And yeah, so some shower activities possible around St. Louis this afternoon, all the way down to Springfield, all the way down to the Boot Hill, Missouri. You definitely could get some shower activity, so don't be surprised if you're driving across Arkansas, Missouri, the Mississippi Valley just in general today, and you just see some sprinkles on your car. I mean, I wouldn't be alarmed or surprised or anything like that. Once we get into the evening, things will pretty much quiet down. We're getting into tomorrow morning, and I'm not expecting much to be going on out here, but a pretty quiet day across the south central U.S. Enjoy it. Up here in the north central U.S., the Great Lakes region, the Midwest, we got some lake effect energy still going on. Lake Huron's popping off. So if you're tucked into the eastern sections of Michigan, definitely kind of just a damp, showery kind of day. And even some streamers going off the southern end of Lake Michigan into northern sections of Indiana and extreme southwest Michigan. And then as we get into this evening, could become enhanced. If this was snow, this would be dropping some good snowfall rates here in northwest Indiana. But just some rain if you live in northwest Indiana. Some rain could crank up later on today, just some lake effect moisture. And then by the time we're getting into tomorrow morning, things will really simmer down. Everybody else, guys, though, pretty quiet. Not a whole lot of energy coming off Lake Superior today, but I wouldn't rule out some showers. Western U.S., pretty quiet until we get into a little bit later this afternoon, where we get some showers that do move into western Washington. But the way this is coming in, it looks like it's just going to clip western Washington. So most of Oregon today will stay dry. But then another system is making its way onshore for tomorrow morning, where some heavier rains moving in a little bit further south. But everybody else dominated by a ridge. The ridge is building up into this region. So everybody under it down here is quiet, and temperatures are above average. Speaking of temperatures, beautiful fall-like day. Now, for some people, they don't consider temperatures in the 40s and 50s beautiful. I do, especially this time of the year. But I mean, very nice. Down to Texas, I mean, this cold front has made it all the way down pretty far south. I mean, low humidity moving across Florida. This cold front's moving across Florida, so it's really nice out there. Just a beautiful fall-like day, a day to just really just embrace the season, which is autumn, and just enjoy it, guys, because you know, it seems like autumn just, especially the far enough north you get. You know, fall is just a season that just kind of goes by just in the blink of an eye. It's really fast. So enjoy it out there. Enjoy these nice fall-like days I'm a huge fan of. It's above average out here in the west, especially like the Rockies region, points west. Temperatures are certainly above average. Still very cool across the Great Plains, but it's definitely warmer than average out here. Definitely stay tuned to your local people, but enjoy these warm days that you got. It's not scorching hot. I mean, we are in mid-October. I wouldn't expect it to be, but above average temperatures. Now, an update on the tropics, guys. We still got tropical depression Sean, after strengthening back into a tropical storm, has weakened back into a depression. And then we got Invest 94L. I mean, we're probably going to get a storm out of this, which is Tammy, would be Tammy. But man, there's some big questions on that. I'm sure there's a lot of channels out there, and this isn't a knock on them at one bit, but I'm sure there's a lot of channels out there talking this to death. I just don't feel the need to, just because there's just questions on it. And I'll show you exactly why here. First off, I keep forgetting to pull up something to actually look at this thing, but here we go. I mean, it looks like poop out there. It really does. I mean, it looks more disorganized this morning than it has over the last 2 days. Here it is. Just looks like a big disorganized area of storms. And that's what a tropical wave is, but some tropical waves look better than others, and I can tell you this has lost some steam. Now you look at the GFS. Okay, that's the leftovers of Sean. This is our wave right here. We'll start off this morning. Here it goes. Getting into Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning. There's that L popping up down here, right? Thursday morning, I would argue it's still, based off the GFS, not a tropical storm. And then we get into Friday morning. I would argue that it still isn't. And this is already starting to take that safe path out to sea. Land masses right in here. The Leeward Islands, Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, British Virgin Islands, British U.S. Virgin Islands, and here it goes. I mean, it never gets its act together, and it brings some moisture, to the Caribbean islands and the Greater and Lesser Antilles, but I mean, it never develops. And then you got a huge trough digging down here. You see the tight gradient between moisture and non-moisture. So, yeah, the GFS never develops Tammy. Now, you look at the European. Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, it's right here. Okay, Thursday morning, finally pops off an L. Is it a tropical depression at this point? Not sure. It does take the more southern route. Now, the European, as we're getting into next Saturday morning, so 6 days from now, it does bring some tropical energy into the Leeward Islands. Okay, but I mean, it's not really a tropical storm. It doesn't even develop into a tropical storm. It looks like the Euro finally develops into tropical storm Tammy once it's making that turn out to sea. Okay, and then might briefly become a hurricane. So, I mean, that's the update on the tropics, guys. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people talking this to death, but I'll be honest. You know me, guys. I always keep it non-hype here, even if that comes with not getting as many views. I'd rather keep it real with you guys. I know it'll pay dividends down the road, but I'm not gonna hype something up that isn't there, and I'm not gonna bite down on 1 day's worth of model runs and come on here and say, oh snap, there's a major hurricane about to plow right into the Caribbean islands just off 1 day's worth of model runs. That's why you kind of have to look at a couple days, and it's just. You gotta keep in mind too. It's very uncommon for the main development region, the tropical Atlantic out here, to really be forming any kind of tropical systems. And for you folks that don't know, it's very hard to get a threat out here because a lot of times these, and I'm just kind of giving you guys some, I guess, spitting some knowledge here. A lot of times, if you get some kind of tropical system, say that gets like right here, starts to get kind of close. Okay, it's done moved into this region. A lot of times, when you start to get to mid to late October, you get frequent troughing. Tons of cold front activity that's moving down here. And what does a cold front do? It would force any kind of energy right here, whether it's a tropical storm or hurricane, to go on and head on back out to sea. So this is getting to that time of the year where these cold fronts act as basically a mechanism to push these on out to sea. Now, one thing that could happen is sometimes in between these troughs, you get energy that can form basically down here, okay? And sometimes, you get a low And this is why when you get late in hurricane season, most of the threat regions shift to the Gulf of Mexico or the Caribbean. Sometimes you get a low pressure develops in the Gulf of Mexico, and sometimes this could sneak up and affect the Gulf coastline or Florida, something like that, and it'll move north in time ahead of a cold front that may be sweeping down and end up affecting land before a cold front ends up sweeping it on out. So there's a little lesson on you guys on why out here in the tropical Atlantic it begins to shut down this time of the year. But anyways, guys, you have a fantastic Sunday. I'll talk to you in the next video. Thank y'all for the support in the slower times, and have a great day.